Hi, my name is Kate MacMillan. I'm the Ocean Conservation Manager at the Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society, BC chapter, also known as CPAWS-BC.
And hi, my name is Michael Bissonnette. I am a staff lawyer at West Coast Environmental Law. And today we're here to talk to you about the Coastal Marine Strategy, which is an exciting initiative currently being co-developed between the BC government and Coastal Indigenous Nations. They're developing a blueprint, if you will, in order to ensure that coastal communities and marine life get the future that they deserve.
Since time immemorial, the coastlines, lands, and waters, commonly referred to as British Columbia, have been stewarded by Indigenous peoples. Today, we are grateful to be filming this video on the unceded and traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations. These coastal lands and waters are unique and truly a global treasure. Not only are they beautiful, they are abundant in so many ways. Yet there are threats facing the coast, from pollution to overharvesting to habitat loss. And that's why it's so hard to believe that British Columbia is one of the only coastal jurisdictions in North America without a cohesive plan or law to protect it.
There are several reasons why we need a coastal marine strategy in British Columbia. British Columbians who live, work, and play on the coast are very much worried about the health of our coastal marine areas, the biodiversity of these areas, and as well about coastal communities who rely on these areas for their livelihood. The current array of provincial policies and laws which has been in place for decades is just not up to standards for the modern day pressures facing our coast. Things like increased development, the effects that we're seeing from climate change that are only going to increase, as well as user pressure between the different users of the coast. Without a coastal strategy or a hub for marine issues in the province, it's very difficult for other orders of government to work with the province, such as Indigenous governments and the federal government, and it also makes it difficult for local governments and even non-governmental organizations to effectively collaborate with the provincial government on marine issues.
This is why we started the Blueprint for the Coast campaign, to unite voices across British Columbia who recognize the need for a coastal marine strategy and law. In this wave of support was the Union of BC Municipalities, which passed a resolution to support a coastal marine strategy in 2020.
A strong coastal marine strategy will require several things. First, the strategy needs to be co-developed with coastal Indigenous nations who have stewarded these waters since time immemorial. Second, the strategy needs to help coastal communities to prepare and adapt to the impacts of climate change, as well as the sea level rise that climate change is bringing. And lastly, in order to make it an effective and long-lasting strategy, we need this coastal strategy to be supported by strong coastal laws. In 2020, the provincial government heard our calls and the calls of British Columbians from throughout the province and committed to co-developing a coastal marine strategy with coastal Indigenous nations. Since then, several important steps have taken place on the journey to creating a coastal marine strategy. In 2022, the province created the Ministry of Water, Land, and Resource Stewardship, which is now going to become a hub for marine programs and for marine management in the province. That ministry, which is tasked with developing the coastal marine strategy, then met with coastal Indigenous nations and coastal Indigenous organizations to talk about how they could collaboratively move forward with a goal of having a coastal strategy in place in 2024.
As a first step in the co-development process, the BC government and representatives from Indigenous nations came together and drafted an intentions paper. This paper captures the central priorities behind the strategy and lists 6 key outcomes. What's important is that this intentions paper also has a long-term lens applied to it. They're looking at applying this over 20 years. These 6 main outcomes include a healthy and productive coast, resilience to climate change, trusting and respectful relationships, holistic learnings and knowledge sharing, community well-being, and a sustainable, thriving ocean economy. In order to achieve these outcomes, the intention paper recognizes the need to restore and protect nearshore habitat and to use nature-based solutions for coastal protection. This is particularly important to address climate change, which increases the occurrence of extreme storms and sea level rise. These events increase the rate of coastal erosion and also the deterioration of coastal infrastructure. Protecting coastal waters with nature-based solutions is not only cost-effective, but also helps to support and sustain marine life. Examples of nature-based solutions include restoring ecologically productive ecosystems, such as kelp forest, estuaries, and eelgrass meadows, supporting green infrastructure for stormwater management, and transitioning hard shorelines made of concrete to soft shorelines composed of native grasses and sandy sediments. These sandy shorelines are really important to support species like forage fish, which in turn support the entire coastal food web. If you're interested in learning more, the Stewardship Center's Green Shores program has guidelines for natural marine shoreline design, which will help the coastal marine strategy achieve these outcomes.
You can also visit the website of the Pacific Salmon Foundation's Resilient Coasts for Salmon project, which raises awareness about climate change issues and nature-based solutions that we can employ now. Lastly, if you want to follow the journey of the Coastal Marine Strategy to 2024, please visit the Blueprint for the Coast website, where we will be providing updates on every development on the way.